This is Gardening in America, and I'm Ed Hume. Today we're in Tigard, Oregon, and I'm with Andrea Dumas. And Andrea, how many years has this garden been in the making?
Well, it's been in the making about 8 years when we bought the property. And we basically came to this backyard, which was an open field, and decided that we wanted something completely different. And this is what it turned out to be.
So it's been changing over the years. Am I right in understanding that at one time there was a swimming pool in here?
Yes, in fact, over by the pond is where the original pool was. And we had it that way for several years until we had the drought, I'm sure you remember a few years ago. And it really inspired me to want to provide more water and shelter for the wildlife. And so that started the whole situation. We were looking for a spot for the pond. It turned out to be where the pool was. And then the whole backyard changed.
You know, and that's what we want to really share with our viewers today, because this is really, you've made it into a wildlife sanctuary, haven't you?
Exactly. That was our hope. We have incorporated dogs and cats and all kinds of wildlife into our lives and found the benefit of having them here is just overwhelming.
But then you have a lot of the animals within the region that are naturally here also visit.
Yes, we have a tremendous variety of birds, from owls and red-tailed hawks, hummingbirds, chickadees, nuthatches, raccoons, skunks, squirrels, you name it, it comes here.
Also, what's the maintenance now that you've changed it over? Is it a lot of maintenance?
Well, I think a lot of people might assume that this kind of property would require tremendous maintenance. Certainly, it is only going to appeal to somebody who wants a garden. But once you get the basics in, and with 8 years of development, it's a relatively easy maintenance.
Oh, be darned. And then you're very conscious, aren't you, of the use of any insecticides or slug baits or anything of that nature?
Absolutely. I think anyone who wants to have children or animals in their yard, whether they're wild animals or domestic, should really consider the benefits of some more biologically safe products out there. Slug bait kills lots of dogs and cats every year, and they can ingest it from a bird, from anything. And with a pond, you really have to worry about runoff with our rain, and what gets into the pond gets into the fish, and it's just all part of the food chain.
And you've got so many animals here that are coming all the time to visit that you don't in any way want to endanger their...
No, I think we want to provide one of the last safe environments for them. We are so close to the city,
Sure.
And we have development all around us, and this is what makes it a sanctuary for them, and really in turn makes it a sanctuary for us.
Thank you for sharing your garden with us, not only from the standpoint of being a sanctuary for animals, but our viewers have had a magnificent view of what a beautiful garden you have.
It's our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. We're here in the lower landscaped area, and I want to share a couple techniques on planting annuals with you. But first, let's notice in the background the path is all completed, the shrubs are ready to go in, and the perennials, and the landscaping's been done in the past. But I've added some annuals to this area, and I want to share with you a couple ideas. First of all, you'll notice that I've used whites between each color to break up the colors, because sometimes they do tend to clash. And kind of like this flat right here, where there's the very deep rose and then a white and then an orange. And see, by breaking that up, it makes all the difference in the world. Whereas if you were to use those two together, they say Mother Nature's colors don't clash, but I think they do clash in that particular case. So the white does a good job. It also brings out the colors more. And I've also added here and there just a spot of a different color or a different type of a plant. Now, how do we know how far to space these plants? Right here in the flat is a label, and on the back side of the label it tells you how tall the plants will grow and the spacing recommended. Now, is what I've done with these impatiens, it recommends 9-inch spacing. So what I did is cut a little piece of stick, 9 inches long, and then that lets me know by placing it down here how far to go between each of the plants. See, that is so easy to do. and it's just a step that'll make it one heck of a lot easier for you. Now, while I'm talking, you've noticed the flashing tape here. That is the bird scare flash tape, and is what it's here for is to keep the geese and the ducks from coming up and messing up the lawn area up above here. And so does an excellent job of doing that. As you can see, there's been really no problem at all. You'll notice one other thing, that I've started along the edge here with the edge stone to make the separation between the lawn and the flower and shrub beds as well. So that's going to make it a lot easier area to maintain. And earlier I showed you, of course, the evergreen shrubs that I've also used in here. We call those the bones of the landscape. Those plants will be here all 12 months of the year, whereas the impatiens and the dahlias and the other annuals will be gone at the end of the season. So it's important when you plan, I think, when you plant a bed, that you consider the use of summer color, but you also look at year-round color. And that's what we've accomplished, of course, with the use of the evergreens as well. But spacing, the use of color, and the proper use of color is really the key to having a really nice-looking summer flowering bed. Time to think about planting out those summer flowering perennials. Just to update you a bit though, remember right back here is where that big rhododendron was, right in the middle of the area. And I put the pathway in, and now we're ready to start planting the summer flowering perennials. And here's a few that I've chosen. This is Huchura, or coral bells, and it's just about through flowering, so it's an early summer flowering plant. The Astelbe, this is one that flowers for a long time. Look at the plume-like flowers, are really attractive, and they come in a wide range of colors, make an excellent cut flower, and the foliage can be cut and used as a filler in flower arrangements. Really a great perennial. And then back here for a little bit of height, I've used one of the delphiniums. This happens to be a purple one, and it can grow 6 or 8 feet tall and just fill in that area really nice now that the rhododendrons have finished flowering. This is Scabiosa, and this is really a perennial that will flower all summer long. The main thing that you have to keep in mind with any of these is when the flower is gone, that you pick it off so it doesn't go to seed. If it does, then it's completed the cycle. Now I've also added, just for a little color in front and hopefully to come down over the edge stones, is some of the beautiful New Guinea impatiens. And this is Chameleon euphorbia. Look at the beautiful foliage color. And I thought because of all the green back here, we needed something that was a little bit different foliage color. And then here another variety of the Astelbe, and as you can see, it's really pretty. This is a perennial geranium that flowers almost all summer long. Very low growing, very attractive foliage, and the flowers are just outstanding on it. And for a cut flower, it's pretty hard to beat the Shasta daisies. This is the double flowering variety, and there are singles and doubles. Esther Reed is this particular variety. You often see it in the florist shops in blues or in pinks, but it actually only grows in the white. It's really a very pretty plant. And then down here, look at, we have the red-leafed Huchura, or coral bells. And the foliage on this, again with all the green background, really makes a nice highlight in this particular bed. And you can see the flowers stand up really nice and make great cut flowers for use in flower arrangements during the summer too. The foliage could be used as well. And then down here on the end, one of the pinks. The gray foliage again is a good contrast with the greens and also with the red foliage back here. But the outstanding characteristic, I think, of this plant is its long flowering season and also the fragrance that it provides. So you can see in here we've used not only a lot of the different flowering perennials, but a lot of them that have beautiful foliage color too. And now's a great time to plant out those summer flowering perennials. With the weather as it's been in many parts of the country, you haven't been able to plant out the summer flowering annuals. And the trade offers now what they call color spots. And those are the larger plants, usually in 4-inch pots or sometimes 6-inch or gallon-sized container. But what's so neat about them is they provide instant color in the garden. And of course the geraniums are generally sold that way. But also look at here, for example. Look at that gorgeous New Guinea impatiens. What a nice spot of color that offers and gives you that instant color. And the dahlias, the little unwin dahlias, they grow about 18 inches high. They're really neat. And of course petunias already in bloom, individual plants. The verbenas, I don't know if you've ever grown them. They're a super plant to use in the landscape. They come in a whole wide range of colors and in clusters. And as you can see, they're going to have a lot more flowers on them. They're going to flower for a long time. Marigold's also a great plant to provide lots of color in the landscape all summer long. And then this is the rose, the double rose New Guinea impatiens, or excuse me, the common impatiens, what we call Busy Lizzie. And this one has variegated foliage too. So it's really a neat plant. It does especially well in shade or partial sun and shade. And this is a little bit bright out here for this kind of a plant. But nevertheless, the impatiens do well if they don't get a lot of reflected sunlight. But two important plants. This is the heliotrope, the white flowering variety. It's very, very fragrant. And down here where a lot of the kids and the adults will be using the beach a lot, this is going to be a great plant because of its intense fragrance. So it's going to be included in the bed. And also at dusk, this plant has a really nice fragrance. It's called the flowering tobacco, or nicotiana, or nicotiana as some people call it. Now, let's go ahead and plant a couple of these because I'm going to have spot color here and there and then use the impatiens in probably wider range of planting, more mass planting, I guess you'd say. So here we'll loosen this soil a little. This is topsoil, but I'm getting into a little bit of the subsoil below. And it's what I just basically want to show you with these color spots. The most important thing, as we mention all the time, is to loosen the roots so that they can grow into the surrounding soil. That's exceptionally important. And always place the plant so that the front is forward. You can see obviously that that's the back side of the plant because it's the sparsest side of the plant, whereas this is the front side. So simply all I'll do is place this in the soil, work the soil around it, and the next thing, of course, that I'll do is to water it in thoroughly. But these color spots are great because they provide instant color for you. We're in the midst of several projects here at the lake, but this one is completely done and it's beautiful. And of course, you know the person that had to do it, our hardscape specialist, Darcy Beck. Darcy, this looks like used brick.
It does, doesn't it, Ed? It's a new product by Hume Materials. But it's actually a new product that's tumbled to make it look like a used brick.
Oh, wow.
It's a full 4x8 size, so it works really well when you're putting together patterns like basket weave and herringbone, those kind of different designs.
Now, tell me, what did you use as a base here?
Well, it's a regular base that you'd use if you're putting down pavers or brick or anything else. It's got, first you excavate off the soil and then put down a base of crushed rock, and then about 2 inches, compact that down, and then put about an inch of leveled sand on top of that, and then begin laying your pattern.
And now, how about retaining it? Will those slide out further?
No, we've used a plastic retaining edge. It comes in long strips and use the large nailing spikes to just butt up against the side of the brick. And once those are in place, then the whole thing just stays exactly where you want it.
Now, it looks like you've used sand or mortar or something between the bricks?
With the bricks, we've just swept sand over the top of it to finish it off. And once it's swept over, then it locks the bricks in place.
You know, now we've been talking about the bricks, but the rocks are really outstanding too. What's the involvement there?
Well, I just wanted to add a little bit of an unusual accent, if you will, and so the rocks kind of lead you into the patio and more or less accent it and soften it.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. Now tell me, how long did it take to do this?
This project took us about a few hours.
Is that right?
Almost, yeah.
Yeah.
Not-
And what would be the cost involved in
This
a
is the surprising part, Ed. This project, believe it or not, was less than $100, and that includes everything.
You're kidding.
You know, the brick, the retaining material, the rocks, the mortar, everything.
Now, would you consider this a project that anybody could do then?
Very, very easy. Very easy project to do. It's not complicated. It's just a question of figuring out what you want, the dimensions, determining the amount of brick you need, and do it.
And Darcy, on a project like this, if the homeowner has a question, they could just ask it from the people that they'd buy these mutual material bricks from.
The salespeople are usually very knowledgeable, be more than happy to answer your questions and work out the whole project with you.
This is a beautiful, unique, and practical design. Here are 3 interesting plants of the week. You know, we know the coleus really well as a shade plant, but here are some varieties of coleus that grow in the sun. So there are new sun varieties of coleus. And of course the coleus are best known for their bright foliage color. And you want to pinch them occasionally so that they'll bush out. And I don't like to let them go to flower. The flower is kind of bluish in color, but it distracts from the beautiful foliage. And you'll want to fertilize the coleus about once a week. Now, if you give them a condition in the garden where the light is kind of low, you'll lose some of the foliage color. And here's a good example. See the foliage color here, but here's the actual color of the leaf down below because it was in more light. So that lets you know, doesn't it, right away that these are varieties that like a sunny location in the garden. Some really outstanding ones. Look at this one here, in fact, with the very small leaf. So there are lots of varieties of sun coleus. Now here's another interesting plant. This is commonly called the cigar plant. Look, the foliage here and the very unusual flower as well. This is a cuphea, and this variety here is magnon. And this is another variety here. Its name is cyanea. And you can see it here used in the basket along with lots of other flowers, and how pretty it is. In fact, our plant of the week a few weeks ago was the sweet potato vine. And then last but not least, of our 3 plants this week is this one. This is the gorgeous heliotrope, and the fragrance of this plant is outstanding. And you'll notice I have this in a hanging basket. We put it by the entry area so you can enjoy the beautiful fragrance of the plant. Next, let's talk about drought-tolerant ferns, and we're in Gold Bar, Washington at Fancy Fronds, and I'm with owner Judith Jones. Judith, where is Gold Bar, Washington?
45 miles northeast of Seattle, about 30 miles east of Everett, just at the base of the Cascade Mountains on Highway 2.
Yeah, it's a beautiful location. Tell me, what about sales? Can the public come here?
Oh,
or?
Definitely. I have a mail order catalog, but I also am open by appointment, and it's a beautiful drive out here and a lovely spot to come visit, so I welcome visitors if they just give me a call, so
Okay.
I'm home.
We're talking about drought-tolerant ferns, and before we do, I've got to tell you, the texture and this is gorgeous.
This is a broad buckler fern. This is a Dryopteris dilatata lepidota. There's a crested form, Lepidota cristata. These are old Victorian forms of a very large growing Dryopteris called the broad buckler. And I have 3 different forms here, a recurved form, this Lepidota, one named for my mentor, Jimmy Dice, which is upright. And you can see the different textures you're getting all out of one species. And I have 2 other species representative here, a golden scaled male, Dryopteris affinis, and a common male, Dryopteris felix mas. But all 3 of these species are what I consider drought tolerant for the Pacific Northwest.
So that means how cold could they take it, and how
How
much
cold?
drought?
Well, I can send these into Minneapolis, Minnesota, where they get 50 below and not always with good snow cover. So with good snow cover, you're even looking at zones 3 and 4. I do ship all over the United States, from Maine to Florida and Washington to
Sure.
Arizona.
And
so-
today we're only talking about drought tolerant.
Correct,
ferns. Yeah.
correct. And because Pacific Northwest gardeners seem somewhat stuck on only evergreen, I think it's important that they look at these semi-evergreen forms because they add
Sure.
so much to the texture of the garden. They're very easy care. You have this incredible range of textures and sizes, from a hybrid called Robust that is over 5 feet down to the little tiny dwarfs that we have in front there
Yeah,
that are
these are
literally
gorgeous.
under a foot
Oh, beautiful.
down there. So you have this tremendous range of variation, but you don't have to learn a different set of growing instructions for each and every variety. This whole group takes the same
Sure.
care. They will go from quite a bit of sun, preferring no hot midday, no 11 to 2 hot midday sun, although in the herbaceous border they will take that with the good watering you give herbaceous perennials.
Oh, they're beautiful. Thanks, Judith. That's all the time we have today. Hope you can join me at the same time next time for Gardening in America. Have a great week.